Welcome to Conversations with Ann Elizabeth, the podcast inspired by my book, I'm a Registered Dietitian, Now What?, where I have the absolute joy to sit back, relax, and have a conversation about nutrition with a variety of people who share their personal story of passion and purpose, especially registered dietitians. My guest today is Jodi Schweiger, a registered dietitian who has the superpower of making things happen by creating her first dietitian job. Head on over to annelizabethrd.com where my book, I'm a Registered Dietitian, Now What?, is available for purchase. You can read my blog post and everything Ann Elizabeth. Jodi, my guest today, is a registered dietitian, certified diabetes educator, a wife, a mom, and a mentor to me. When Jodi got out of her internship, she approached a retail business, basically cold calling them and explaining to them why they needed a registered dietitian on staff. In her jobs to follow, she carried on this entrepreneurial spirit and had made things happen for herself professionally. Jodi's story is inspirational and noteworthy. I hope you all enjoy this conversation. I just kind of wanted to touch base with you and talk to you, and I love talking to dietitians, and you're one of my favorite dietitians that I know and just that I've gotten to know over the years when I started working at Hy-Vee. But when you think about dietitian, being a dietitian, and when you got started in dietetics, was there like an aha moment? Was there something that really sparked your interest when it came to being a dietitian?
Well, looking back, I went to Simpson for a couple years in college and thought I wanted to be a physical therapist, and realized that, that really wasn't what I wanted to do. And so I started looking at, I knew I liked exercise and I really liked nutrition. And so I found that degree through Iowa State University for dietetics, and obviously went through that program. But coming out of that program, I knew that I wanted to do something maybe non-traditional.
When it came to being a dietitian?
To being a dietitian, mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so, back in that time, it was just like, oh, dietitians just do hospitals, or, there wasn't so many options out there. But I was lucky to have found, through Hy-Vee, an option for kind of a non-traditional dietitian role. So it landed me there for a few years anyway.
So what kind of got you interested in physical therapy? Because that's they're kind of the same allied health type of position. So jumping from physical therapy to being a dietitian, still in that health perspective, but was there something that, you weren't quite satisfied with that physical therapy profession?
So that's a great question. I had, in high school, torn 2 ACLs, and then tore a third one my freshman year in college at Simpson running. So 2 in basketball in high school, and then 1. And so that was kind of what really, I felt like I was an expert on physical therapy, going through all my rehabs, and had worked, part-time over a summer, and really thought that that's what I wanted. But after, going into the program at Simpson, I was just a biology major. I was kind of looking into the future for a job as a physical therapist, and it was really at that time projected to be very saturated. And so I had advisors and other peers or mentors, so to speak, that had said, hey, you might want to think about if this is really what you want. It could be very competitive.
That's interesting.
And so it caught me second guessing about my professional path.
Mm-hmm. Well, you had that personal connection with all your injuries, so that's kind of you felt.
So I always knew, health was, I think, to put the two together, it obviously is about your health, your body. So I was like, okay, well, what else could I do as a profession?
So I wonder, how did you stumble upon nutrition?
Oh my gosh, do you really want
Yes,
to know?
I do, because it's so interesting, because you're thinking of health, and I guess going from physical therapy, I probably wouldn't think that next step would be nutrition. It would be, maybe being a doctor or a nursing practitioner or something like that. So yes, I want to know.
Well, it's, I feel for those high schoolers going into their freshman year of college trying to make a major decision for the rest of your life. There's so much pressure to that. And, so to tell you about how I landed up in Iowa State dietetics, once I knew that I wasn't, maybe questioning my path to physical therapy, I went and took a kind of one of those, I don't know what the test is called. They check to see is it aptitude?
Aptitude or like a career matching type of test.
At Simpson. They wanted me to come in and let's do this and, find out what. Well, guess what that test told me I should do?
What did it tell
Take
you?
a guess, Ann.
You should be a teacher.
Oh no, I should be a horse trainer.
You love horses.
I love horses, and I have horses. That's a hobby, but that's not necessarily
what you want to be as your career.
A career, because I was like, I don't think I could make, a career out of doing that professionally.
That is amazing.
And making a living,
Sure.
So, but then second closest was nutrition.
That is, so you, top one, horse trainer, second one, dietitian. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so then I started looking at schools, where could I go and get a degree.
Did you have any clue that Iowa State offered that dietetics program? Like, did you know any fellow past, peers or?
No, I really didn't.
So you went into it pretty blind.
I did.
Then.
Yep, I sure did.
So how was navigating kind of starting a whole new school and getting into a program? How did that go for you?
Yeah, that was hard, not starting at a school, and having to transfer in and meet people. I joined the nutrition club and got active in Block and Bridle, which is a horse club. Oh. So
that's interesting. I didn't even know they had that up there too.
Yep. And then so I was able to, try to meet people through those clubs and also, not having so much of those big classes. Mm-hmm. Because I had already gotten those kind of out of the way. I was really kind of into those focused smaller classes for dietetics. So I was able to meet some good friends.
Meet some people. So when you got into this nutrition classes, did you feel like yes, this was the right decision? This is where I should be?
Definitely. Yeah. I really enjoyed the classes, and just every time the next semester, I'm like, when are we going to get into more of the meat of it, You
wanted to know more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's exciting, though, because I think that when you do make that decision to go from a completely different career side, different school, and start a whole new program, if you didn't have that feeling, oh my gosh, that would be really scary.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be like, oh no, now what?
Now what do I do? So I'm going to have to go to another school and find another program.
Hey,
so
but that happens.
It does. It does, which is okay. Absolutely okay. But that's great that you knew that when you went to those classes that you were doing the right thing. So when you were done with classes, you were that person wanting more. So you were probably super excited for your internship and to start working in the field. So where did you do your internship at?
Yeah, I did that through Iowa State University as well. And they kind of, at that time, had, it was very, very competitive. And they had, certain places around the state that you could go with a preceptor that they had selected in a site to do those rotations. So, like, I did some of mine in Pella, Iowa, and some in Ottumwa, Iowa.
You were all over.
Yeah, I was kind of all over.
Did you like that part of it? Did you like the variety of the different communities?
Yeah, it was good to kind of, even for the community part of the rotation, doing some with the 4-H extension in more rural areas. So
that was right up your alley.
That was right
then.
up my alley since
Yeah.
I'm a small farm,
sure,
home-raised girl.
Well,
so,
and that's perfect because it's kind of blending your passion for farm life and
absolutely
being in the country and that type of stuff. So that's a good merriment between a couple of your passions.
Right.
That's awesome. No, I think that's really, I didn't know that you did stuff with 4-H.
Yeah.
Which community was that in?
Sigourney, Iowa.
I don't even know where that is.
It is like, I think it's about 30 minutes west and a little south of Oskaloosa.
Okay.
So
Tell me more about that, because I'm interested, because I've never heard anyone doing community projects with 4-H.
Yeah. So there was a project that I worked on for, it was a nutrition program with some 4-H group. Gosh, and I really don't remember much about it.
You just wanted to muster through it.
I'd have to refer back to those. I still have I'm sure the presentation, because I actually presented it to our group.
Oh, sure.
Back up at Iowa State.
When you got back together.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
That's neat. That's neat that there's experiences like that
Right.
available, because I think that we focus so much on the traditional, clinical and WIC and all those traditional avenues when it comes to our internship. So knowing that there's opportunities like that is nice to know. So,
yeah.
Well, good. So
maybe that's why when I got towards the end, I wanted to do something more non-traditional.
Maybe because you had some different experiences.
Right. It wasn't so clinical focused.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
well, and so many people go pretty much a lot of us go clinical right out of our internship. So let's talk about, you got done with your internship, so you're super excited. And you said you got a job with Hy-Vee, which is a retail grocery store chain. So talk to me more about that, because that was kind of at the cusp of kind of retail dietetics happening in the United States.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I guess, as I was finishing up my internship, I realized that I did want to do something non-traditional, was really looking at, what could I do? I knew I wanted to have a job when I was done.
Which is always, that's always nice.
Yeah, so I started looking at, I knew Hy-Vee had some, corporate dietitians, but they were actually not employed through Hy-Vee. They were through Acosta Sales and Marketing, which was
a contracted
company that contracted them. And I knew that there was maybe one or two other dietitians in some stores at Hy-Vee, but so me not being from Des Moines area, I grew up in Western Iowa. I had no idea, right? What store should I contact? How should I get into Hy-Vee? I just knew, okay, this is what I want to do. So I put my resume together and I sent it into Mike Cooney over at East Euclid Hy-Vee.
So one of those local stores.
One of the local store directors. And then I went in to meet with him, and he had told me that they weren't looking for a dietitian at that point, but that Greg Hall, which used to be a past store director over at the West Lakes Hy-Vee on the west side of Des Moines, was, and that he would take my resume to the next marketing management meeting for store directors. And so, I ended up getting a phone call from Greg and asked me to come in to do an interview. And so
you created this all yourself. So there wasn't a job opening necessarily.
There was not a job opening.
So this is something that you researched, that you thought, this is where I need to be. This is what I want to do. So I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to put my resume together, and I'm just going to call up one of the stores. And that's awesome.
Yeah. So went in there, had a great interview, and was offered the job before I left.
The same day?
The same day.
Oh, my God. Were you, shocked by that?
I was shocked. I was just you're school girl giddy. It's your first job, big girl job. I was so excited.
Which I think I'm not that I doubt you at all, but I'm so impressed that you took that much initiative to approach a company and really say, hey, you need a dietitian in your store. Yeah. And pretty much convince them that they did, and they offered you a job that same day.
Yeah.
That's something to be really proud of.
Yeah. It really was. So,
So in the interview, I mean, since this was kind of a new frontier, was there anything that, what was the conversation about?
I think Greg Hull, the store director that hired me, he had a vision. And I think a lot of those store directors do. They kind of see the future. They see he let me know right away. He's like, there is no job description. You'll have to just kind of create and do what you think you want to do. And he would support me however way he could. Yeah, and in that process. So yeah, that was a little scary, not necessarily knowing like what you were going to do. It wasn't like I didn't have anybody there to kind of show me or teach me, or hold my hand, but it was a fun process.
It was something that being a dietitian, we all find ourselves creating possibly positions for ourselves and making ourselves worth having a position in different types of avenues. So that's awesome that you were given that opportunity. So talk to me about being there and how did that, you spent how many years working for Hy-Vee?
I was with Hy-Vee for 12 years.
12 years. So during 12 years is a long time. So being
that
frontier navigator, what kind of things, when you didn't have that support and you had to do a lot of things on your own, what kind of things, was it difficult? Was it easy? How was it to be the person that was creating programs and different pieces?
It was there were days that it was super challenging but it was rewarding at the same time. I guess, I've always been that type of person that really loves to create and do and build new things. And so that really creates just a good workplace for me, being able to be innovative like that. So, and one of the things with my store director, Greg, through a lot of those years was, he was always pretty supportive of if a new idea or want to try this or, so, I think that's having a good communication, obviously, with your direct person is really important, especially when you're wanting to use any dollars to create anything. So,
which is a good point because you do need to use money in those situations. Do you feel like being a brand new dietitian, creating a career for yourself and starting a brand new job that didn't have a job description, do you feel like your internship prepared you to develop a job description in this sense, in this new career that you started?
I would say no to that.
No?
Yeah, I really, I felt like I had the skills to, after that internship, to actually, sit down and counsel somebody on a certain nutrition education topic and, the nutrition care process and all of that. But that's one thing that I've always thought that, I think as internship programs continue to evolve and change, that they really need to equip the dietitians with more of those self-marketing skills, because we are going out into different job places and you're seeing dietitians go into all sorts of different career paths. And so they really need to know how to market their services and create that job description and sell yourself, so to speak, because, sometimes you're in a position where this employer may not know what a dietitian is supposed to do. And I can say that what was true for me in those first few years at Hy-Vee. They didn't, I was managing a health market and doing ordering the first year and a half to 2 years, and that wasn't necessarily what I went to school for, and I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do, and so I changed that. I basically showed my director and others that here we can be impactful and use our skills that we went to school for. And everyone's happy then.
Exactly. So. Well, and I like that you brought up, that internships do need to kind of focus more on how does the dietitian market herself or himself, and not just strictly focus on all these jobs are always going to be always there and created for you. We know there's so many more different avenues that dietitians are just branching out into, but we don't have that marketing skill, and sometimes we don't value our worth. And so I like how you spoke to that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I just had a conversation a couple weeks ago with a veterinarian, and he is very successful, has been doing this for 40 years and has a huge business that he really created. It started out as just him being a veterinarian, and then he branched out into doing, hog units and things like that. And he said, even in vet school, they teach you how to be a vet, but they don't teach you how to, again, create or build your own business and market yourself. And so, I mean, I think it kind of can be across a few other professions too.
Sure.
But yeah.
Well, and just like you said too, you didn't want to be a traditional dietitian. You wanted the non-traditional route. And quite a few of us want that in life as dietitians. Yeah. So I think it's good that, there's people like you that want to show we can create the life and the career that we want to live, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to be in a hospital, and you don't have to be in a school, and you don't have to be in those traditional places to be a great dietitian.
Absolutely.
So when you think about being at Hy-Vee, and you were, again, a brand new dietitian, when you thought, dietitian is such a broad term, so what did you find as a dietitian with Hy-Vee was your passion when it came to, was it educating? Was there a certain type of nutrition that interests you? It obviously was not ordering things for the health market and ordering products. So what did you find along your journey when you were with Hy-Vee?
When I first was getting started, I think I liked the variety because I could back then do so many different things, from, screenings to education on different topics, weight loss and cholesterol and diabetes and, sampling food and going out and doing nutrition talks. So there was just a lot of variety. But, as I was getting into it, probably my second or third year, I was thinking, okay, I really thought I really am passionate about diabetes. Kind of met a real close friend of mine that has type 1, and our conversations always tended to be about her diabetes and how, she is or is not managing it well.
It happens.
And so, it really sparked an interest, and I'm like, okay, I think, that I really want to start focusing in more on diabetes education, and really looked at getting a diabetes program off the ground. And so that's what I worked with our pharmacy manager, and we were able to produce a diabetes education program out of a grocery store.
It's amazing.
Which is crazy. I didn't think that's possible. But that's right. Isn't that the whole point of our career? It's like anything is possible, I think. But yeah, and then after we got that going, I realized, like, okay, I'm collecting all these hours with these patients. Why not get my diabetes educator certification? And so, went and did that. And then I decided, well, we should probably get a national certified program, not just a state certified program. So went out and did that. So yeah,
and that's not easy.
No, it was a time consuming the certification to become a CDE, but then as well as just creating that program.
Did you have to create the education materials?
Yeah.
And oh my gosh.
Yeah, we did, because we didn't necessarily start nationally, and we could have if we would have done that route, we probably could have used like ADA or AAD's materials, but we had started out just as a state certification, so we did create a lot of our own materials.
So over the course of how many years do you think when you went from state program to national program. I mean, how long did it take for you to actually build that program in a grocery store?
2005 was really when, so I started with Hy-Vee in 2003, December, and then 2005 was kind of when we kicked off that state certified program. And then I'd say probably 2010 was the national, and 2011 would have been my CDE is when I got that. So, and over the course, I mean, it just, the program really took off, you know, but again, how did it grow? It grew through me going out and meeting with clinics and promoting my services. It didn't just happen They didn't walk through the front door, I guess is what I'm
looking for
say.
you. So you had to go out again and market yourself. You had to go put the legwork into it and again prove to businesses and probably, was it clinics and hospitals and things like that you were an available site for the program?
Absolutely.
That's a lot of and you were by yourself?
I was by myself until 2009. We hired a second dietitian.
Wow. So going from having no dietitians to two dietitians and a national diabetes program. So that was primarily your main focus then, that you did diabetes and worked with a city full of different types of health care providers.
Yes.
So it wasn't just people off the street. You got referrals from physicians.
Right.
And
yep. Referrals came in from physicians. Although we did have, customers that may have heard or read, a flyer, heard an announcement over our PA announcer or something like that and came in and asked questions and then were like, I would like to go through your program. We would still then send off a referral getting that from the doctor to be able to, for them to come through the program. But yeah, for the most part, it was a lot of referrals from clinics.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
And so you left Hy-Vee when?
I left Hy-Vee January of 2016.
Okay, so not too long ago.
Not too long ago.
And when you left, your program was still going fabulously, and you're very I'm sure you should be very proud of how that has all been set up and how it's still going.
Yes.
But what made you decide to leave something that you were very passionate about?
I was definitely ready for a change. As far as I felt a little stuck, I guess, so to speak. I knew I wanted more, and I just, wasn't sure that it was going to ever happen. So you can only wait so long, right? And then you're just like, and I'm one that, well, if it's not going to happen, then
you're going to make it happen.
Make it happen.
That's what I love about you.
So, so I just, I just realized that I needed to make a change.
Was it something that, like your professional inside needed to be stimulated? Was it?
It really was. It really was. And I feel like I'm in my prime, so, it's now or never. And so I decided that, I kind of had been looking and got a phone call saying, hey, there's a position open with Tandem Diabetes Care. You should consider that. It's a clinical diabetes sales specialist for Iowa and southern Minnesota. And so I checked that out, and they hired me.
What interested you about that position? I mean, you love diabetes, but that was a completely different aspect of diabetes.
Absolutely.
So what interested you in that?
I think the fact that it was still in diabetes, but I knew that it was going to polish off some of and actually I learned so much with a short amount of time that I was with them, but as far as, managing type 1 diabetes. So the diabetes education that I did the majority of it was type 2, although I did have a few type 1s throughout my career at Hy-Vee, but I knew that this is an area that would challenge me, and really forced me to learn about insulin pump therapy. And so that, to me, again, a challenge. I think I like, clearly listening to myself today, I like challenges, I think.
You do.
Don't
Well,
I?
you like to learn more. The more you can learn, the
Right.
happier you are.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I did that.
So when you got, so thinking of taking on that new challenge, was it difficult for you?
It really was difficult. You know, the training, so their headquarters is in San Diego, California. You're out there for a week, getting some onboarding, and then you really are, your office is at home, but you're really traveling quite, what I learned, traveling a lot in your car, and you have obviously accounts or provider offices that you're going into. And, you know, my primary responsibility was to, if a patient had selected our pump, the tandem pumps, the T-Slim pump, I would go in and train that patient, you know, if they didn't have an educator that did it, on how to use the insulin pump and get them set up and going live. So that was my primary role with Tandem. But I also, when I wasn't doing that, I was responsible to help, basically be a support person for our sales rep too. I had a partner that I kind of worked with in my territory, so I was helping with the sales side of it. Going back to your question, I mean, it was really difficult with the onboarding and the training, and I felt like I was away from my family, gosh, probably 3 weeks to 4 weeks in a row, just with all of that, and it got to be a lot. Even I kept telling myself, oh, it's going to get better, with the traveling, and I loved the job itself. I really loved that area, but I knew that it wasn't going to be long-term either, because, it was really disrupting the family life balance, all of that, which is so important to me.
Sure. That's the other part of you, that your family is very, very important to you.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So that was difficult. So what did you change to make that life-work balance better for you?
While I was
working for Tandem.
Mm-hmm. It was quite interesting. My husband really became Mr. Mom, which it was crazy, because when I was at Hy-Vee, he was working for in the beverage alcohol industry, and had a position where he was traveling all the time, pretty much like I was with Tandem. So our roles literally flipped. Reversed. And I think for the first time it made us appreciate, like, our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I'm trying not to tear up over this, but he was able to see, like, my struggles, and I was able to see, like, what he would come home to, and, like, I would be wanting him to,
clean the toilet.
Let's get going. Why are you
dinner.
tired? You
Sure.
know what I mean? And, like, I totally get it now, because, like, when I traveled, it was like I was get home and I would be exhausted, and so it was really cool for us to kind of have those roles reversed. And it just really made us appreciate what each other has done over our marriage. So he really helped through that process, and really picked up where, he was doing grocery shopping and doing laundry and dishes and getting the kids to school and picking them up and all of those sorts of things. So, and he was so supportive over, that journey, because he knew that I wanted to grow more professionally. And he was the one that was like, he's like, just go interview with Tandem. Just go do it, because, you'll never know. And he's like, and if you interview and it's not what you want, guess what? You get to turn it down. You don't have to leave. And I was like, you know what? You're so right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really glad for that.
So how long were you at Tandem then?
I was at Tandem for 6 months.
6 months.
So isn't that crazy?
But it speaks to that, yes, you had a passion to learn, and yes, you wanted to keep furthering your career, but maybe this wasn't the right fit for you. And again, your career, your life, work balance, all that stuff has to mesh well for you, obviously. So what was the next step for you when it came to
Right. Well, and like, with Tandem, I wasn't really looking to leave the position. I knew that it wasn't going to be something that I wanted long term, but I thought, a year or two, I'll keep my eyes open, right, for something different. And then I had the Iowa clinic reach out to me. I had a relationship with quite a few individuals really, that I had worked with when I was at Hy-Vee. They had reached out to me with a position that was opening, and they thought that, wanted to see if I was interested, I guess. So I put in for it.
Is that what you're currently doing?
Yes, so yes. This is what I'm currently doing. I am an executive health program manager or director, whatever.
Both.
Call it whatever you want. It's for executive health. Yep.
Okay. Is this a new position, or is this something that they've always had?
It's a brand new position.
Sounds familiar,
doesn't
to
it?
Your whole career, Jodi.
Yeah, I know. It's so interesting to actually get interviewed, and then you kind of, these reflections, really makes you think. You're like, oh, yeah, aha.
There's a common theme for
you. There really is. It's a brand new position, and the program was piloted for about a year. And so they just kind of started it in February of this year, actually going live with it. And they had somebody in the position prior, but they really expanded the role of what I am doing. So I'm not only seeing kind of over the program, but I'm responsible for the financials and the budgeting, and then also some other task forces that I'm on.
Within the clinic.
Assisting with. Yep. Which one of them is a diabetes task force. And then, some other health and wellness initiatives that Iowa Clinic is interested in.
So you're still kind of going back to your roots of diabetes. So you're helping with that. Yep. But again, you're creating a new role for a registered dietitian that actually was rooted back to your days as a Hy-Vee dietitian.
Right.
That's so interesting, though, like how it's kind of come full circle for you. Mm-hmm. So maybe you're not directly working as a dietitian, but it came from the connections you made as a registered dietitian.
Very
true. Very interesting.
Right.
And how do you feel about your career path, and are your passions still lining up, and are you feeling like life-work balance is better? And
oh, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love it here. I haven't had an employer that has been so excited to have somebody
like you.
Like me. Yeah. Like, it's so refreshing to have them just tell you how thankful they are you're here and how excited they are to have you here. And I've repeatedly, it's not just been one person, it's been several people that have, sent me an email or whatever.
That's
so glad
great.
You're here. And I still have that variety, which I liked when I was at Hy-Vee and even with Tandem. And then work-life balance is so much better. And that was good. So important. So, I think now, being that my husband and I both have experienced those roles, now we're able to kind of meet in the middle, because both of our jobs are now not hardly traveling. And so it makes us kind of just share those responsibilities.
That's very, it's kind of like it all was meant to happen for you, maybe.
Right.
And I think it's good just thinking about, as dietitians, we don't have to settle. And I think that's kind of, I don't know, do you feel like that's kind of your message for, say, other dietitians listening today, that we don't have to settle for a job just because we don't think there's anything else out there?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I said when I left Hy-Vee, I mean, I'm definitely not one of those people that's a job jumper. Obviously, you know,
You're there for 12 years.
Yeah,
so.
I was there for 12 years. I mean, that was what I thought was going to be forever. But, I think to all those dietitians out there, if you're feeling a void of, maybe not your professional career isn't complete yet, to not waste any time. There's always opportunities out there, and there's always life after whatever current job you're in. For me, it was like after I left Hy-Vee, I was like, oh, there is still other opportunities, and that's what's exciting, is that you don't have to feel stuck.
And you don't have to feel like you have to stay somewhere for 6 months, 12 years.
Right.
It doesn't
Exactly.
matter. It has to be what works for you.
Definitely.
Which, that's a great point. So you've been a dietitian for a total of how many years now?
Gosh, would it be 13?
13.
Yeah.
So you are in the prime of your career.
I'm in the prime.
Which is exciting that you're excited about where you're at, because you're doing so many different things, again, that probably you feel like you did not get educated very well in an internship when it comes to managing a budget and all those. Is that intimidating to you, or has it been easy to kind of navigate that on your own?
Yeah, it was a little bit intimidating, but I have a good mentor here, and I feel like, gosh, if I would have had to taken on a position, there's no way I would have been able to take on a position right out of college, because I wouldn't have felt prepared at all. But now, I feel very confident with having those skill sets, because they've developed themselves over the years, having to manage, your expenses and revenue and all of those sorts of things. So I do feel like I have those skills now. But yeah,
you have a good support system. I mean, everyone here
definitely
is supporting you and wants you here and wants to make this successful. So you're all on the same team.
Everybody's on board,
which is good.
So important.
And you still have horses.
I do still have horses.
So you said that's not a career, but it's another passion of yours.
It's another passion. It's definitely a passion and a hobby, and yeah, so I still have them.
Do you dabble in horse nutrition with your horses?
I do a little bit. Yeah. My oldest one is 27, and feel like he's been part of my life forever. I almost talk to my kids and everything like he's another kid, but yeah, he gets senior feed and some special feed to help keep his weight on.
Oh, so you do.
Yeah, I do.
So you're marrying your passions with your horses too, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I have some fun questions for you.
Okay.
That are easy.
Okay.
And you can just answer them as you like. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food. Gosh, that's a tough one. I'm going to say probably pizza. I think that's the American favorite, and I like pizza. But
that's your favorite?
Yeah.
Is that your family's favorite too?
No. Honestly, I think my kids and my husband, they like pasta.
Pasta.
Yeah.
Well, they can have pasta, right? You have pizza. What's your least favorite food?
Gosh. I'd say sauerkraut.
Sauerkraut.
Yep.
What's your favorite drink?
Alcohol or regular?
It can be anything you like. You can name one of each if you like. We get this question often.
I really enjoy a good gin and tonic. That just grew up with my parents, and that's what they always had. So I feel like that's kind of ingrained in me. I would say water. I really like water.
Gin and tonic and water.
Yeah.
I like that. What's your least favorite drink?
I definitely don't like any of the sports beverages, like even the G2s or
The healthier ones.
Yeah, and it's not even necessarily a health reason. I just don't think they taste good. So I don't know. It might be my taste buds, but.
What's your favorite smell?
I I really like vanilla. I was just cleaning the house last night, and I had one of those Scentsy pot things, and I put in the vanilla bean, and I'm like, gosh, that smells good.
Smells delicious. I do like vanilla too. That's one
Yeah.
of my favorites. What's your least favorite smell?
I would say like, cooked bacon, like the smell of cooked bacon when you walk in a kitchen.
Because it stays in your house
Yeah.
for 10 days.
or even seafood too. The smell of it can stay in your house. So those would probably be my two.
Okay. And if you can name a guilty pleasure of yours, it can be food, it could be activity, it could be anything that you enjoy.
Gosh, you got good questions. I would say, I really like chocolate.
Is there a certain kind of chocolate or just
Oh, it has to be a good chocolate.
chocolate.
It can't just be like a Hershey's bar. It has to be like Godiva or Ghirardelli. It has to be like a high-end.
do you have a secret stash?
I do.
Do you, at work and at home or just
At home.
I like that.
Yeah. I do.
Well, it has been awesome talking to you today.
Oh, thank you.
And I love seeing you, and I miss working with you.
I
But
miss working with you too.
yeah, but yes, it's been good. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Jodi is such an inspiration for all of us looking to create our perfect job that matches our purpose. I hope you feel empowered after listening to a fellow registered dietitian who got out there and hasn't been afraid to make things happen and try new things. Please go to annelizabethrd.com where my book, I'm a Registered Dietitian, Now What, is available for purchase, and you can find all the show notes and links to the things we talked about during this conversation. You can connect with me on Twitter and Instagram at annelizabethrd. Remember to be great always, find the joy in each day, and to start a conversation that truly matters.